Hello and welcome to After Hours Trading. We'd like to welcome everyone here today on this July 9th, 2025. We got Michael Fairborn in the chat. We welcome him. And just real quick, remember the market is closed today. It'll be back open tomorrow. So just know that your charts are not frozen for no reason. So today is going to be kind of more of a technical session as we talk about after hours trading. I think many people might not know about this. I was thinking to myself probably about an hour ago, when was the first time I did after hours trading? It was like 20 years ago. So I want to kind of talk about some of the reasons for after hours trading, why someone would be interested in that, at least knowing that that's a potential option. And also we'll talk about some of the fine-tuned details. I want to share with you some content that I think would be helpful and also be a follow-through for today's session. Got Michael Fairborn in the chat. We welcome him. And also we welcome Scott, Dean, Dragon Rider 108, Josh, Will, Robert, and many others. Welcome to all. Now you can find Mike or myself also on X. Follow us there. And also as we get into today's session, remember the information here is provided for general informational purposes only. Yes, my second session of the day, as someone mentioned in the chat, tomorrow I'll do 3 sessions. Okay, I'll do kickoff ETFs tomorrow. I'm riding solo. Kevin will be at the San Diego workshop with Ben Watson. I will also, in the stead of Barbara Armstrong, who's in Maui, I will be teaching her trading a smaller account tomorrow, and I will conclude the week in review tomorrow afternoon. So 3 sessions tomorrow as I kind of take some other responsibilities. Hopefully it's a good outcome and they let me come back. Now, also remember that options carry a high level of risk, not suitable for all investors. Also, when we talk about examples, they are just that. All investing involves risk. And so today, what I want to do is I want to talk about the purpose of after hours trading, kind of what are some conditions that we might be really looking for, and what do we need to know, okay? And what are some of those resources that we have available to us? Second, I want to talk about order types. I think this is maybe for some a little confusing. I want to try to demystify it of order types, when and why to use certain order types. And also I'll give you the resources with that. And also with that is I'm going to talk about some examples of after hours trades. Now last week, Barbara, there's 2 approaches you could take here. Number 1, Barbara took the approach of you work, let's say you're busy during the day, you come home and you actually look at the markets and you're putting in trades that will get filled potentially the next day during general market hours from 9:30 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. Okay, that's one way you could do it. I want to talk about after hours trading like you want to get filled not just during maybe the market day from 9:30 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern, but you want to try to take advantage of the market maybe in the AM session or the PM session and even overnight, okay? And so I want to kind of talk about that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up just real quick, let's kind of just bring up a chart. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to bring this up. So if we pulled up a chart, and if you don't mind, I'm going to pull up just Costco, okay? And if we pull up, let's say, a chart like Costco, let's go to just real quick, let's say a 1-year daily, okay? So it's a familiar chart. We've seen this before. Now, some of you live on the East Coast, and it's like 9:30 a.m. It's almost lunch, for crying out loud. And the people in California or Oregon or Washington, they're barely waking up, perhaps, right? Now, the people on the East Coast, a lot of the times, will get news about the companies that's affecting the price of the many stocks. We'll also get economic data that is released in the pre-market, okay? We'll also get overnight news from Europe, Asia, and so on that could also be affecting commodities and rates and many other products, okay, like currencies, etc. So a lot of activity is happening before the official market opens at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So that's why we kind of talk about after hours trading. And we're going to kind of show that if you went to, let's say, where it says D, you can also go to where it says time frame. Now, where do you see this after hours trading? Where do you see it? Now, before I even go here, Captain Obvious, so I'm on the charts, and you're going to see where it says 927.37. Well, that was the close as of 4 p.m. Eastern, okay, yesterday. But in the after hours, what you're going to notice is we see the B for bid, the A for ask. You see 943 3/4, 944 and 85 cents. So what happened? There was some activity in the after hours that saw Costco get a jump. Now, if you had done a day order, okay, and said, or a GTC order and said, fill my order by Costco at 927, and let's say it didn't fill, and you saw that jump, your order is not participating in that after hours event of the price moving to the upside in this example. Now, if we go to just real quick where it says D, time frame, okay, we're now going to go to where we have the daily chart, we have intraday, okay, and I'm going to go intraday. Now, if I went intraday, the goal is we're not trying to do that short-term trading that you think of. We're just trying to get an order filled. So when I go intraday, it does not mean I'm trying to buy and sell in 5 minutes or buy and sell in 15 minutes. I'm just trying to get my order filled maybe in the morning and maybe have a target, and I'm going to show you some examples, okay? I'm still thinking there might be a 2 to 3 day trade, maybe 2 or 3 weeks or longer, but I'm just trying to get it filled, okay? So if I went intraday, and I'm going to go, let's say the time interval, let's say 5 day, intraday, okay? Aggregation period, and I'm just going to say, let's say 5 minutes, okay? So every candle here is going to be a 5-minute candle. Now, if I do this, what you're now going to see is we see some shading. So this is from your 9:30, okay, Eastern, okay, EST, what's not shaded, and this is your 4 p.m. cutoff. So what you're now going to notice is on Wednesday at 1400 hours my time, or 4 Eastern, there was some activity there on Costco, okay? Now, by the way, it's just, if you said, James, I do not have the shaded portion on my charts, then you want to go to the settings, and you could actually extend that as well. Setup, I believe application setting. And if you said, let me just double check this. It's been so long since I put that on, and I think it's going to be in the chart setting. Let me double check. Yeah, there it is. So if you said, hey, James, when I did that, I don't have the shaded portion. If we went to, let's say, let me just go to time axes, and there's going to be one of these that's going to show the shaded portion. Let me go. No, equities. Yeah, no. Yeah, there it is. So I went to the setup, the gear, and then I just went to equities. And all I'm doing here is just saying time. Show the extended hours trading session. Okay, that's all it is. Okay, so on the charts, go to the gear, then go to equities, and then go right to the time axis. It's been so long since I checked that box, but there it is. Thank you for the help there. Now, what I want to do is also, where else could we see it? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the trade tab. So let's say, for example, and I want to show you some of the places that you can see the information, which is important because that's what you're trading. Now, number one, if I go to the trade tab, Costco, this, if we're talking about if we're in the after hours, right, this is going to be the 4 p.m. Eastern close time, okay? And then if we look at, let's say, something like the bid-ask spread, okay, we want to see where's the bid-ask spread in relationship to the last price. Now, if the market was open, we could still be getting some movement there. Now, when you're trading in the after hours, and this is just kind of my rule of thumb, doesn't mean it has to be your rule of thumb, at the most, would like to see that bid-ask spread no wider than 25 cents. If it's like 50 cents apart, $1 apart, that really means that there's not a lot of volume in the after-hour session. When I'm looking at something, I'm saying, hey, I'm asking myself, what's the bid-ask spread? Okay, is it wider than 25 cents? If it's so, not that liquid. If it's a penny wide, pretty liquid, and there's some volume there. Second question, where's the bid-ask relative to the last? Are we getting a little bump there? So that's another place you can see it. Now, the other thing is we see things like EXTO eligible. Now, don't worry, we're going to come to this, okay? And also, when we bring this up, when we go down to like an order down here, you're going to see that we have like TIF, time in force. Now, let's kind of start with what you know, okay? Now, let's kind of stop for just a second and say, why on earth would I want to put in a trade before the market opens? Well, how many times have I taken a flight where I said, daggum plane's leaving, and they tell you to turn off your phone, okay? And daggum it, I want to see the order fill before we take off. I mean, that's happened, okay? Or let's say that I'm not going to be available, having a meeting, whatever, and I want to make sure the order fills. Maybe there's earnings in the morning, maybe there's economic data like we have tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera. All of the above. Those could be reasons why the investor is saying, I want to use a different order. Now, the orders that we're aware of, clearly, is a day order. The day order is only going to fill from 9:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern. If it doesn't fill during that time, got to wait till it cancels at the end of the day and would have to reset it up for the very next day. So now I want to kind of go over just real quick, kind of some terminology that I think that we need to tackle for just a second, okay? Now, this page right here, and actually, let me do this just real quick. Let me go to, and just pull something up, and I want to share this with you, okay? Now, one of the places that we might not know of, okay, that I think is extremely helpful, we're going to go to the Education tab. And if we go to the Education tab, you're going to see that there's a Learning Center. So if you kind of ever had like miscellaneous questions or you said, I just don't know, you could go to the Education tab on the Thinkorswim platform, then go to Learning Center. This is the manual of using Thinkorswim. Now, there's like text. There's also some videos as well, okay? Now, if I type in orders, okay, if I just type in orders right there, enter, what it's going to do is it's going to tell me some of these order types. Now, I don't want to be super like, I don't want to read like bullet point by bullet point by bullet point, but I do think, for example, that it would be very helpful if we were to bring this up, okay? And you could, by the way, you could just type in order types to get exactly to this. Now, you're also going to see that on the left-hand side, you can see where we are as well. We're underneath trade. Now, if we take a look at this, okay, this gets into order types, okay? I want to now get into just real quick, what does this really mean, like EXTO, okay? So if we were going to do a day order, we're trying to get filled from 9:30 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern time, okay? But wonder if I was going to do like an EXTO order. Well, if you did that, that's valid for all sessions for one trading day from 8 p.m. Eastern until 8 p.m. Eastern, Sunday through Friday, okay? Now, I'm going to show you another place we can see this that I think is helpful. Now, you're also going to see that if we did an GTC EXTO, that is GTC plus EXTO orders. They're valid for all sessions. That would be pre-market and during the market day, Sunday through Friday until filled or canceled, okay? Now, let me kind of show you just real quick another area that I think is helpful, okay? So that's kind of some definitions of order types. But let me kind of also kind of show you just real quick a place, second place, that if I were you, I'd want to know, okay? So right on the Schwab.com website, okay? I sent you the link. Make sure that you bookmark this, okay? And this gives us really an overview of some of the things we need to know about after hours trading and some of the differences and risk, okay, and benefits. Now, first off, if I said to you something like, hey, I did a pre-market order and I was filled, what does that even mean? Well, you're going to see that those orders can be placed from 8:05 the previous day, okay, to 9:25 Eastern. That's pre-market, okay? And you're going to see that. So pre-market, when I think pre-market, I'm thinking, most of the time, it's probably going to be about 6 a.m. Let me just read what it says here so we can be consistent with the Eastern time. And eligible execution from 7 a.m. Eastern to 9:25 Eastern. I live in Mountain Time Zone, so I'm always thinking between 5 and 7:25. So that last part is if you said I did a stock trade and I did a pre-market trade 7 a.m. Eastern to 9:25 Eastern in the morning, okay? Pre-market. Now, if we said after hours, we know that the market closes at 4 p.m. Eastern, okay? So after hours trading, or PM, by the way, pre-market AM, after hours PM, you'll see why that's important in just a sec. They're saying that you place the order, stock trade, 4:05 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. So those are AM trading, extended hours, or PM, after hours, okay, extended hours trading. Now, the difference here, so let me kind of pull this up. So if we decided, you know what, tomorrow, I want to see if I bring up, let's say, a stock example given like UAL, okay? Let's just kind of use this for just a moment, okay? If I went to UAL and let's say this is 7 a.m. Eastern on Friday, and I said, hey, I want to try to get in on UAL. I think the stock could actually go up today or in the next couple of days. We're just going to go right to the ask price, example given, click on that 103.84. Now, just like we would normally see, let's say we're buying some shares, we go over to, let's say, day, and you're going to see the time in force, such as AM. So here's the quiz for you. When would that fill? Well, that's the pre-market hours. That's what we just talked about, right? That's a pre-market hours. So if you said, look, I want to get filled in the pre-market or try to, there it is, okay? Now, there's some technicality of that AM, and I'm going to kind of go to that in just a sec. You're also going to say, if you said, look, I want this actually to be filled in the after-hour session or PM session, there it is. So refer back to these pre-market trading session and after hours. Now, so if I said, for example, if I said, look, I want this to be also filled, okay, in the extended hours trading, well, that could be in the AM or the PM. Okay, so that's the difference. Extended hours could be in the AM or pre-market session or the PM session after hours. Okay, so that's the difference there. Now, what I want to do is I want to kind of go back to something when we kind of talk about some of the differences here. If you said, James, I want to even try to get in, maybe you're trading something that is very, very liquid. Now, are all things equally liquid? Oh, of course not. Okay. Some things, if you pulled up like a utility stock and you compared it to a product that is tracking, let's say the S&P 500, it's not even close, okay, in terms of the volume. So when we look at what's called EXTO, we're talking about overnight trading sessions. These are 24-hour that expire at 8 p.m. Eastern every market day, okay? And you're going to see that this is for stock trading. Now, what you're now going to notice is the difference is, what is the risk? Well, the biggest thing that it says here is it's variable. And you're going to see this on just a moment when we look at NVIDIA. Just because I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, my time, and I said, look, I want to trade NVIDIA, it doesn't necessarily mean that the volume is constant, like during the market hours, as we will see in volume. So there's lower liquidity, okay? Now, you're also going to see that if we don't have that continual volume coming in, you might have a little bit more volatility on, let's say, the prices. So it always goes back to volume, okay? The more volume we have, we might have more continuous prices, okay? And that's the goal there. Now, the difference is here, if we go to where it says regular versus extended hours, you're now going to see if we said, well, what's the difference? If we had on the left-hand side regular market hours, and we said, well, what's pre-market, after hours, and what is this overnight trading session? See some of the technicalities there. But what I really wanted to show you is if we're doing these orders during the market, okay, standard hours from 9:30 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern, you could do orders like market orders, limit orders, stop limits, and so on. And that's what we do all the time, right? What's the difference with all after hours trading? Well, only limit orders are accepted. Why is that? Did anybody know why that is? Just kind of went over that a little bit, right? Well, you might have inconsistent volume, right? And the other thing is they want to make sure if you have a wider bid-ask spread, that there's a cap on what the investor is willing to buy it for, or a floor that the investor is trying to sell it for. Okay? All right. Okay, good. Now, let me kind of just make sure. So this page I'm going to tell you is very important. So part of your homework assignment, number one is, number one is I want to go back to this. Okay, so we go back to education. So homework assignment number one is if you said, James, I am unclear on order types, okay, I want you to go to the Education Learning Center and then just type in order types in that box. This is going to give you the definition of really what they mean and when you might consider using them. Number one. Number two, if we go to, for example, this page, I'm going to resend it to you, and you should keep it in a back pocket for resource, okay? This page. And I want you to literally look at it as if you were going to take a test, okay? Now, as you go through this, benefits and risk, regular versus extended as we were on, how do you see it on the quotes, etc., and some of the frequently asked questions. It's there for a reason. We want you to read it, okay? Now, I also want to, for example, talk about this page, okay? This page, I think, is very good because it gets into some of the technicality that we had, that there's been some questions on, okay? So, and this is going to really iron out, if you normally trade during the market, how is after hours different, okay? So day orders are good for standard trading sessions only. And as we mentioned before, from 9:30 to 4 p.m. Eastern. I think we get that. Next. Now, if I said I want to use a day order plus extended hours, that's during all trading sessions. So that means you're trading in the pre-market, or the order is pending in the pre-market, and during the regular market hours, and in the post-market hours. So if you use extended hour trading, you're saying, look, I want to try to get filled or sell in the pre-market, during the market hours, and post-market, okay? Now, why might someone try to do that? Why would they do that? Let me kind of go back. Sorry, I magnified that too much. Hell, was holding the control key down. Let me go back down. Oh, man. Lost that place on there. Okay. Now, okay, there we are. Apologize about that. I zoomed in up with my keyboard and mouse. Now, the difference is we've had some questions on GTC orders, right? They're good for up to 180 calendar days on Schwab. Okay. So there it is. There's your answer. Now, if you use a GTC plus extended hours, which is what we'll see in the time in force, same thing, 180 calendar days. Okay. Now, if we use extended or pre-market, when I say pre-market, we're saying AM orders, those run daily from 7 a.m. to 9:25 a.m. Eastern. Okay. So let's say we have Chevron, we own the stock, Chevron announces earnings, the stock pops $3 or $4 and we own the stock. The investor says, I want to try to sell in the AM extended hour session. Well, we could try to get filled, okay? Now, we could try to do, and that order would be a limit order, as we saw. Now, PM session or after hours extended, you're going to see that it's from 4:05 Eastern to 8. That's kind of important too. Now, are there any questions with that? Okay, type in those questions. Now, you might also be thinking, well, this is all great and dandy, but this kind of sounds like tedious a little bit, okay? That I'm going to have to literally check each one? No. So one of the things that came out on the releases just recently, right before Thanksgiving, is we said, hey, with some of these stocks that are trading more pre-market hours, AM, post-market, PM, one of the things that we could actually do is kind of, instead of like looking by one stock, we could add a column heading on the Market Watch. And one of the headings is EXT. What does EXT stand for? The extended hours. Could be in the AM session or pre-market or PM post-market hours. So we could see what is that trading for, okay, relative to the last price. The last price, if we're talking about we're in the morning, the last price was yesterday at 4 Eastern. So we can, if we had a watch list or we're looking at the Dow list, we could see, are there any stocks that are getting a little pop by 3 columns? Extended hours last. How much is it up or down in the extended hours, pre or post market on a watch list? And then on a percentage basis. That's kind of nice because now we're not having to look one by one. We can just kind of see, is there anything in my list, personal or public, where I can see movement? Let me see how that works. Where do we find that? Well, if I bring this up and if I go to Market Watch, okay, and let me kind of just go back to that right there. Now, I'm going to tell you what the saddest part of this is, okay? The saddest part of this is, James, I have so many things I'd like to have my columns, running out of columns. I know how you feel. Yeah. All right. That's why I want a wide screen. Now, here's the deal. So we're just going to go to the Market Watch quotes. Okay, so Market Watch quotes. Now, if I go to Market Watch and then quotes, so how do I get this EXT last and net change, just like you would expect? Right click. Now, a lot of people probably didn't know it was there. But don't worry, that's why we're doing this, okay? We're going to right click, customize. So if a lot of people are kind of saying, well, what things are active in the pre-market? Do I have to watch TV for 3 hours to see that? No, you could see it yourself right in a watch list, whether it's a personal or public. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in, we right-clicked on the heading, the column heading, right-click, and just said customize, okay? When I right-click, and then go customize, get a little pop-up box, and I'm just going to type in the EXT, okay? Now, when I type in I can type in extended, there it is. Session last, we can add that by right there. Extended session net change, add right there. And extended session percent change, add right there. Now, we don't have after hours activity here today because the market is closed due to Jimmy Carter passing away. So, and the observance of that. Now, what you're now going to notice is tomorrow morning, okay, so let's say we said, hey, you know what, I have a list of stocks that I like to look at. Or let's say they're my portfolio. Well, if we went that direction, if I click on this little 3 lines and said scan a watch list, okay, or create a watch list, click on the 3 lines, create a watch list. Let's say this is my personal list. And let's say I like to look at, let's say Apple. Let's say I like to take a look at, let's say NVIDIA. And let's say I like to look at Microsoft, Costco, and let's say I like to look at, let's say Palantir, whatever, okay? Now, by the way, could I bring up a product that tracks like the S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, Dow Jones? You sure could. Could I bring up a liquid product that tracks the sector or maybe an industry group? You sure could. So this is not just stock only. Now, if I go to save, what you're now going to see is if we have a personal list, we could see, are there any stocks in here that are getting a bump as well? Now, what's the difference in what we have? Well, last to this percent change, this is market hours. Okay, you know what that is, from 9:30 a.m. Eastern to 4. The extended hours to extended percent change, this is pre-market, and this is post-market. Okay, so that's what's going to show. And so we're able to kind of see that. Now, you could also even put up volume there if you want as well. But I think that's helpful because a lot of times people are like, well, how did you see it doing that? That's how I'm seeing what's moving in the pre-market, what's moving in the post-market, and by how much, okay? Now, the other thing I want to bring up just real quick, well, how on earth would we know what are some of the stocks that have, let's say, pre-market trading or extended hours trading? When you pull up the Market Watch quotes, you're now going to see on the list, you're going to see which stocks have 24-hour trading or extended hour trading. And you're going to see that it says the 24 icon, extended EXTO eligible. It's able, instrument is available to buy and sell 24/5. Careful when we say that. We need volume, okay? Market hours. And you're going to see that we could go to the pre-market hours. Let me pull this up. You're going to see a couple on here. So number one that I want to be looking for is pre-market hours, okay? And I want to just pull that up. And you're going to see that there is sections for pre-market detailed sector, pre-market mini sector. That's two places. You're also going to see in here that there will be pre-market and post-market and, okay, lovers and losers. There you go. And that's what I meant to say. Lovers and losers section, pre-market movers, post-market movers, analyst upgrade and downgrade. These are places where news can affect the stock price. And that's how we could see it. Now, the other part of this is you're also going to see that in social media. We can also see, let's say, things that were posted on social media where there's been maybe quite a following on social that might be influencing, let's say, Palantir, MicroStrategy, Tesla, and so on. So these are kind of how you can kind of scan on the outside, maybe things that are outside your personal list or a public list, okay? So these are kind of some things. If I was trading in the after hours, which I said the first time I think I did after hours trading was 21 years ago, okay? So it's not a new idea, but the details, we need to know some of the details and some of the differences in the time in force and some of the features of how we find it. Now, what I want to do now is I want to go to just real quick. I want to go to the trade tab. So let's say we said, hey, James, we know the market was closed today, but I was kind of thinking about doing an order. How would I do an order now based on, okay, I have an understanding and I have the resources of doing these extended hour trading. But let's say, for example, I wanted to try to get filled UAL in the morning only, and I want to set like a bracket order, like I normally would do during the market hour. So how do I use it? Well, we're going to right click on the ask price like we normally do. And I'm going to go to buy custom and I'm going to go with OCO bracket. Now, this is nothing different than we would normally see, but the time in force or TIF, it is different. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to go day and I'm going to go to where it says AM. Now, let me give you a quick pop quiz. What's the difference between AM and extended hours? What's the difference? Well, the extended hours would be the AM and the PM session. AM would be pre-market. Post-market hours would be PM, okay? If we said AM only, let's go back to the resource, okay? So if I said the extended AM orders, those are only good from 7 AM to 9:25 Eastern, okay? Now, are those allowed to fill during the market day? No, okay? If you wanted to fill during the market day orders, that would be from 9:30 to 4 p.m. So we are doing an order. We're saying, look, we only want to try to get filled in the AM session. Now, let's say tomorrow morning, UAL is up 50 cents, and we decide, hey, look, fill us. We're going to do a market order. Are we going to do a market order? No, we're not, because only limit orders are accepted. So we're going to say, look, we're going to be willing to buy up to, but not more than 103.84. Okay, fine. Now, let's say we also decided where do we think UAL might go. Now, if we said, James, and I'm just going to say this hypothetically, okay? Let's say we decided, look, I think UAL might try to go to 110, and I want to set my stop hypothetically at, let's say, 97. Just example given, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm using my knowledge of after-hours trading and putting an entry to get in. Now this, if I did a day order or a GTC order, that is not the allowance to fill in the pre-market or post-market sessions or overnight. No. GTC from 9:30, day or GTC, from 9:30 to 4. Okay? And I'm saying, look, if we go up to 110, sell. Now, wait. Stop for just a second. Okay? So do you understand that? If we go up to 110 during the market hours, from any time from now until 180 days from now, sell it. But wonder if you said, well, that has to be during market hours. But wonder if you said, look, not only do I want that, I want it to be GTC extended hours. I don't care if it's during the market hours, 9:30 to 4, or the extended hours. If it can get to 110 or higher, sell. Now, let's go back to this, okay? So if we kind of read just real quick, good until canceled plus extended hours. Here we are, okay? It's interesting when the information's right in front of my face. I just got to read it. Good until canceled hours plus extended hours are good for up to 180 days at Schwab, like day plus extended hours, GTC. They're available for limit orders and are active during all equity trading sessions from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay? Now, so we're trying to get in that window there. Okay? Now, what you're now going to see is, if I did that, I'm also going to do the stop. I'm going to do a standard stop. Now, if I said, let's say GTC, okay, I'm going to set a stop. Now, with the stop, you got to think about, for example, how this affects a stop, right? So if I did this and said, look, I want to get out at, let's say, 97.5, notice it's not allowing me to put that there. It's not. Notice it's blanked out. But if I go stop limit, okay, it's not allowing me to put that on there, okay? So if I said, look, the stop is 97, and I said the stop is 97.5 and 97, it's not allowing me to do that. They need to be the same, okay? Now, if I went back to a stop, it's still blanked out. So why is that? Well, because I can't do a market order, okay? So that's kind of one of the drawbacks is I can't have a stop, okay, at least when I do this bracket order like this. It needs to be something where I'm buying and then selling with a limit order, okay? So that's the one thing, and I'm going to kind of get into more of that next week. But the biggest actually thing is, so on this type of order, we typically be saying, look, I'm going to right-click, buy custom, with stop in this case. But in this case, we're just going to put, let's say, GTC EXT. I'm going to put back the 110. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to now, there's the that limit. Why is it not taking it? Because I need that limit order. Since we're trying to sell at 110, we're saying 110 or higher. And we talk about the hours that it's affected or able to do it. And it's between 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. Okay, Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay, now the question now becomes, wonder if you see the stock kind of go up and it's getting pretty close to your target, and you're seeing it on an intraday basis. Now, the other way we could do this is if I click on that D, we could say, look, 5-day, 5-minute. If you said, hey, James, I saw the UAL kind of pop up pretty close to my target, and I just want to sell. I want to go in and say sell. Could you go in and just adjust that price to maybe 109, 108, and so on? The answer is sure. Okay? Sure. All right. So that you could adjust the orders just like you do with day orders or GTC orders. Sure. All right. Now, what I want to do, Josh actually says from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. What about 8:05 to 6:55 a.m.? Well, when you start getting to those hours, that's when you're getting into the EXTO hours. Okay? That's when you're starting to get, and that's going to be seen. Okay, let me resend that back out to you. Now, by the way, one question I want to ask here is if you, for example, said Can I do this with options? No. Options are only trading really from standard market hours. 30 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern. So this is stock trading. Okay. So let me kind of recap some of the things that we discussed that I think are important. So number one is we talked about why would an investor really want to use after hours trading, or at least know that it's there. I think sometimes you've seen a stock that you might have. It maybe has earnings. Maybe the earnings reaction is positive and you said, man, tomorrow I want to sell it. So you wait until the next day only to see that stock fade and you say, man, if I would have known about extended hour trading, AM or PM, I might have had the opportunity to exit the stock. You have to check and see where it is and what the volume is. The last thing I want to kind of also mention is seeing what that volume is important, okay? Now, on the chart, you should really also put the volume, and what you'll see is how that changes, throughout the AM session or pre-market. And look at some of the differences there between, let's say, like a stock like NVIDIA or maybe a stock like IBM. And the answer is it's quite a bit different, okay? So be aware that not everything is the same. But you'll notice on stocks, for example, like UAL, you'll kind of see that on these other days, kind of what's the reaction. And if I looked at, let's say, a stock like NVIDIA, you're going to see that there's more activity. If I pull this up, and what you're now going to notice is there is some pre-market trading right there. 216,000 shares, okay? 159,000, I'm looking at right there. Now, what you're going to notice is the bars are a lot smaller compared to the normal market hours. Exactly. But that doesn't mean that there's no trading, okay? We said that was kind of one of the risks. You got to make sure that with what you're trading, is there some volume? If there is enough volume, the bid-ask spread is going to tighten, normally less than a quarter, okay? If it's not very liquid, okay? So I got to wrap this up. But today, kind of the goal of today's session was really to get into really after-hours trading and some of the technical definitions of it between AM or pre-market hours, PM or after hours, and then what do we really mean by extended hours and also overnight trading. And what are some of those resources that you should have at your fingertips? So I want you to go over some of those resources I gave you, make sure that you're familiar with them. Start practicing in the paper money account some of these orders and how do they fill and so on, okay? Now, I want to also thank Michael Fairborn for answering those questions in chat as well. Tomorrow, I'll kick off ETFs tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. That is not recorded, okay? So join us there live. Remember that all investing involves risk, and this has been the class on after-hours trading. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. I'll see you back tomorrow morning on ETFs. Take care. Bye-bye.